Okay, they are ready. I'm gonna give them the countdown, and it's gonna be one hell of a ride. And they're off. Giddy up, boys. Good luck. Alright, so the notable thing about Secret Evermore speedrunning, the first thing they did there was mash start through the opening, so you can skip the little opening cinematic, and they're just going to move right into it. Making their way through, they want to take a bunch of damage along the way, so they're going to set up an interesting little skip called Raptor Skip. And some of them will be grabbing clay here, some of them might not, depends on the route that they're taking. You got Colin opting for that flower. Ooh, Colin gets the skip first. The RNG of these flowers can be really annoying. The boy can dodge a lot, and that's just not something that we want to see. It looks like Solar and Zheal fall off pretty close behind. The first thing that they're going to do is collect a little bit of items and money around the town here. They're going to need this for buying some ingredients in this game. The magic system, as it were, in this game is based off alchemy, and it requires combining certain ingredients to create different effects. So you're going to be taking advantage of that. Now, Colin here moving in to do the Fire Eyes skip. You're intended to go talk to the chief of this village here, but you can just move the dog to the right and then deselect the dog, and it'll switch to the boy as your primary, and the dog will continue on past the trigger without setting it off, and then we can just switch back to the dog afterwards and move on. Next, we're going to move in to pick up the most important item in this game, because it's a speed run, obviously, and you want anything that makes you go fast. These are, excuse me, essentially the Pegasus boots of Secret of Evermore. But in order to do so, we got to buy a little something something from this guy, or he won't give them to us. So that's part of why we needed the money. And then the other items we picked up in the town, we're just going to sell, as well as the thing we just bought. We're just going to sell that right back to him. Pick up that Jaguar ring. Verminator skip. Verminator is a boss later in Act 3. There is some funny shenanigans you can do to skip the boss, but it is very risky as it can crash the game, and it gets buggy with the sound, and the game just soft locks, and then the cart crashes. So that's not something you want to really risk doing in a marathon run. So that's one of the reasons we won't be seeing that. Plus, it's also not very consistent, so we haven't quite figured out ways to make it fair enough that everyone can utilize it. And everybody's coming along pretty good, getting to the hardball cave. They're going to pick up their first alchemy formula. Typically, you're supposed to get one from Fire Eyes, but we did that Fire Eyes skip, so we don't need it. I'm going to pick up a little bit of crystal, which is some of the ingredients required aside from the clay that they have been grabbing. Also, you'll see them move to the dog a lot. The dog has very fast vertical movement right now until we get the spear with the boy, and then the spear sort of has the best movement available. But something else notable is when they are running with the boy, you'll see them running at zigzag angles there. Zigzag angles. That's to maintain as much speed, because horizontal movement is way better than vertical movement. And they just did a funky little skip, much like the way that we skipped the Fire Eyes. They were able to jump over some bridge triggers there that you would typically end up collapsing if you try to pass them, and then you would require to go around through that maze. Now, these boys are just on fire, neck and neck. Ain't nobody had any trouble so far. They're all going for that top play. Now they're going to set the boy up here to do another skip. They're going to run the boy into the door trigger while setting him in place with a healing item. Then on a very specific frame, they're going to switch back to the dog and switch back to the boy in order to transfer the door trigger, and puts them into this room with horizontal movement instead of vertical movement. And by doing that, they're able to jump the dog over a trigger and skip the intro to this boss, who would typically drop maggots at you. Now, interesting solar going to the right side. So what they did there, typically in this game, if you're in control of the boy, you can only cast a spell 2 times in a row before the game will stop you until the spell finishes its animation. But if you're in control of the dog, you're able to get 8 casts out at one time before the game will stop you, which is very useful in speedrunning. We call it multicasting. Some of them were able to pull it off. You see Solar is taking a little longer to finish the boss there. There's an outro skip to this boss as well. It's a little finicky. It's not too difficult, but if you miss it, then you just gotta wait it out a little bit longer. And by doing so, they rescued Strongheart, who is the old village chief, I guess, or the shaman or something like that. And now that we've done so, we've gained the trust of the village, and they'll give us the proper information we need as to what's going on and where that strangely dressed girl is from. But first, they need to pick up more ingredients. This game is very volatile, very hard game. They're probably going to be saving before this next boss, as even with all the damage they output, if they get low rolls, there is a chance that the boss will not die. And if that's the case, it's very difficult to recover. More than likely end up in a reset for our runners. So they'll pick up 40, which is enough for 4 rounds of 8 casts. If I do, no, 5 rounds of 8 casts. And what they're going to do is they're going to pre-cast some before they get to the boss in order to strengthen the spell so that the damage that they do is a lot higher. And right now, on the way back in order to re-skip the same, when you go to enter her house, a bunch of the villagers will show up and they'll start chanting her name and whatnot. By running around the town with the dog locked in the dialogue box with that man guarding the way out, they basically move around, set some weird trigger shenanigans, and end up coming through the top of the house. Don't worry about the science behind it. It's not important. We get this lovely conversation where Fire Eyes here gives us these wicked call beads. They're spell items, but they have unique spells attached to them based on the person that you're using. So like right now we have Fire Eyes here. We're going to have access to Fire Eyes' special abilities, but later as the game progresses we will gain access to some other key NPC characters. But now we got Zheal heading over to pick up the most important item in the run. I guess it's not really the most important. It is skippable. It's definitely not the most important, but it's a very good item. A very good spell, rather. Sorry. This is the Defend Alchemy, which we're going to be using for a key glitch later on that's going to make this game absolutely trivial. But first, the shenanigans never end. You notice Zheal run up to this rock, and he switches back to the dog, and then switches back to the boy. And suddenly he's inside this cave that was blocked by the rock. What's happening here is the game only allows 3 sprites on the screen at one time. So if you switch back to the dog, the game also does not keep sprites on the screen until you get close enough to them that you can see them. So by switching to the dog who's far away, the rock is despawned. So in the time that the camera takes to catch back up to the boy is able to move through the rock and continue on past these barriers. Evermore is an incredibly broken game. There are a lot of glitches, tricks, and soft locks, especially soft locks, at least 15 that I know of. And they're going to use that sort of event transfer mechanic between characters. Oh, Zheal not saving. He's going right in. Oh, none of them are saving. Look at this. Look at these guys. So they're using that event transfer mechanic. They were able to kind of trick the map into taking them into the place they needed to go just a brief bit faster than going through the pipes. We got Solar saving. He's the smart one. Let's hope everything goes well for Zheal and Colin. This boss can be very trolly. You're also, the starting point that it exits the lava is different, and there's certain ones that you want and one that you really don't want to see. If he comes out to the far right side where he's off screen, it can be very annoying. But now we're going to see some new tech here by bringing up a menu that like a full screen menu that takes you out of the action, and then closing that menu you can cancel the animations of the spell, and by doing that just at the moment that all the spells hit, they are able to Colin had a reset. They're able to Zheal using a healing thing as backup. They're able to trick the game into thinking that he was only hit. I didn't notice Colin saved. Tricking the game into thinking that he was only hit by one spell at a time, which reduces the chances of him heat waving. Sorry, this is just very intense. Come on, Zheal. Don't die, brother. You did not save. He must make this happen. Okay, he pulls through. Woo! Just sweating in my booties here, man. It's like I'm being quiet here to help Solar concentrate on the fight. Let's see how this goes. I think he's got this. He looks pretty good. Colin got that sort of annoying spawn, so he goes way far to the left. You got to get the boy over, or he'll be off screen. You won't be able to target him again. Solar wiping him up. None of this really matters because the massive amount, there's a big sort of thing that we have to do, and RNG can be very fickle and not let us do it quickly. And it can kind of be this early equalizer, so we'll see how that all works out for them shortly. There's Animation. They're stacking magic. By having the dog in control, you're able to multicast 8 spells, but there is a unique thing, and there's different types of spells. You have spells that travel across the screen, like the hardballs, and you have spells that just appear in place, like the thunderstorm. So because those two spells are of different types, you're able to multicast both types of spells. However, the more you do so, the higher chance of soft locking the game, and if you don't menu cancel that animation quick enough to prevent that soft lock, then bad things happen. It's a glitch. I'm sure it's not intended, but it's something that a lot of people just discover playing this game casually, because when you're trying to cast with the boy, you can only get off those 2 casts, and then for whatever reason, you may notice that having the dog out, you can do a lot better. Now, Zheal is going to do a character transfer at the moment he enters that door there. That's going to bring the dog, who is not actually in the party anymore, off screen, because the game puts the dog up into the top left corner of these maps. Most maps when you don't have the dog at this point. And then he's going to use the aggressive AI of the boy to do a similar leash like we did for the Fire Eyes skip to get the boy across that gap and into the desert. Solar doing his. Now, what happened to Zheal there, inside the desert, there's a specific rock formation, and the developers left in a little bit of a zip through the desert, as it typically takes about 2.5 minutes to walk through. And with that zip, they're able to cross the desert like instantly. Now there's also a reverse version, but it's a little trickier to pull off, and it requires a slightly different rock formation. But they all made it through Magmar, so most of the stress is gone. I'm sure they'll save before attempting the Atlas glitch. Zheal picking up the Atlas medallion, which is needed to cast a spell that he just got from Popeye to Sailor Man, which is the strength enhancement spell. So now we have the defense and the strength buffing spell, and we're going to use both of those for some very excellent results. Okay, Colin getting across. So the reason they're doing those shenanigans with the dog to cross that gap is that by falling in there, some events start playing and some scenes go on, and Right now, from the moment they entered the town, a 15-minute in-game timer started, to which they cannot progress in the game until that timer runs out. However, that timer will run down during those events. So for them to fall into that hole and trigger those events early would lose them time, whereas they can just burn those events while the clock rolls on the in-game. Now we're going to see Solar attempting the reverse. Zheal got it, but things were being explained that I couldn't mention. So in Solar's screen, he needs to come down at an angle below this rock. And this one's a lot trickier to do. You have to be a little more precise. It's sort of luck-based. But then he gets it. When they do get the dog back, there will be another way to cross the desert in reverse. That we'll explain when that time comes. But first, Zheal is going to pick up the Crush spell from the end of all these cutscenes. It is one of the most OP spells in the game. It has very high base damage. You get it early, so as you level it up, you'll get a new spell that hardly compares. Zheal is going to kill a few spiders to gain a level here. He needs a bit more HP so that he can successfully set up this glitch without too many tries. And like I said, with that 15-minute in-game timer going, doesn't really matter how much time they spend. The only time they'll lose now is time in menus and time in screen transitions. So they want to try and reduce the number of times that they need to attempt this, because that'll just reduce the time lost from screen transitions. Solar on the same grind. Solar's HP is already a lot better than Zheal's. Zheal being the current world record holder of any percent no Verminator skip, that is to say. So you're probably going to see a lot of risky business from him. So Colin going to save before the glitch. I'm not too sure. I didn't notice if Zheal saved before trying to set this up. But what we're trying to do here is, now that Zheal's ready to go, we need to get our characters afflicted with 2 status ailments. So the first one we're going to do is this poison from the spiders. It's about a 1 in 8 chance to be inflicted with a status ailment, so there is some RNG to this. And sometimes it can just troll you and take a long time. And you'll end up just burning like, roughly 5 seconds every screen transitions, every set, back and forth. Solar looking like he's setting up a save as well, so we got 2 out of the 3 saves that confirmed. The reason we want to save, not just in case that you die or something like that, but there is a chance that even after you successfully get this glitch, it will not be in a good spot. I'll explain a little bit more on that. So we got Zheal poisoned. Now he needs to go down and get either confounded or plagued by this monk. Monk not really cooperating. Oh, he's taking a risk doing a second hit there. Those Popeyes you really want to stay away from. They hit you for some pretty serious numbers. Okay, looks like another no-go for Solar. Who's going to get it first? And the other reason you want that extra HP is these spiders can juggle you if you're going with the double spider method, which most of our guys are opting, all of them are. Solar on his next attempt. Oh, he's got the confound. So now what he's going to do is he's going to use this pixie dust, which after fatal damage will bring you back to life. He will then cast his 2 buffs. He will then wait for a poison tick. Oh, that might not work for him. What you need to do is you need to wait for a poison tick, and you need to get killed before... Oh, he's got it. It's good. So you need to be killed before the poison ticks again, and the longer you wait after the poison tick, the better set you'll be. But if for say you get that poison tick and then you die immediately after, your stats are going to be set up in a way. Let me see Colin checking. See Colin, or yeah, Colin's very good. Why did he reset? I don't know why he reset there. The stats were good. I'm not too sure what happened there. So what happens is the game sets your defense and strength values to 65,000 and a number. And we want that number to be low. It's a 3-digit number. Obviously, we want that number to be low. If that number is 400 or 500, after gaining a few levels, your strength's going to roll back over, and you're going to be at 0, and you're not going to be able to do any damage anymore, and you run over. So we don't really want to see that. I really don't understand why Colin reset there. He had 65,100, which is like some of the best. Unless I saw those numbers wrong, but I swear I saw 65-1. So now it's just a matter of running through the desert, getting some money to buy some ingredients for Crush, as well as getting some levels to increase our accuracy. Because at this point, now that we're invulnerable from the defense buff and overly powerful, all we need now is just the ability not to miss. Every miss is gonna, of course, lose that second or two. Is this going to be the one for Zheal? Popeye wants some action. If he gets killed immediately, he should be good. Okay, right on. That looks good. Oh, okay, no, Colin has... I don't understand. So Colin's all set up again. Everybody's good to go. Things are going on. I'm missing them. Madness is happening. Something else they're trying to do here by killing these enemies, you can do what's called the flag glitch. So by getting a drop from these guys, which they have a chance of dropping 75 jewels, if you pick up the drop and then pick up another drop immediately after, like quickly immediately after, you'll transfer the flag from drop A to drop B. So when they pick up that 75 jewels and then quickly pick up the wax or the limestone, they'll instead pick up 75 wax or 75 limestone, and it just saves some purchasing all the frames, Oh, it looks like Colin's going for Sting strats. Sting is a alternate method, but he must have got the water. I don't know if I saw that or not, or the vinegar drop. The Sting requires different ingredients that are harder to acquire than the Crush. So unless Colin got that vinegar drop, I'm not sure why he's going for the Sting, but it requires you to get vinegar from a different NPC along the way. Oh, he did get the vinegar drop? Excellent. Nice, nice. Yeah, Sting is typically a strat used in Hundo, but the animations are faster because Sting is an instant cast animation, whereas Crush is a traveling animation, so like explained with the hardball and the thunderstorm. So Sting, as soon as you do your 8 casts, you can immediately menu cancel, whereas Crush, they have to wait out a couple seconds for the animation to get to its near completion before they're able to menu cancel it. Nice, he got that 75 vinegar. That's probably going to help him catch back up after that reset on Magmar. The thing about the glitch that they did, at this point, they can no longer reset the game, as they will lose their stats. So they really have to be careful for soft locks, and well, that's pretty much the only thing that's a problem now, is soft locks. There is a category without Atlas. It uses some glitches, but not all. Currently, it's titled No Major Glitches just for convenience, but if you want to call it glitch limit, bug limit, whatever you want to call it. But There is one. It's primarily an alchemy-based category. If you've got any other questions that I may have missed, well, I guess Green Ambler's here to answer a bunch of questions too. It looks like Solar's making his way back in town. He's going to go pick up some rice and some spice. He's going to make some trades in town to get... first, he needs this Amulet of Annihilation, which is going to allow us access to something later on in Act 3. And then he's going to go... Oh, he's going to talk to this here chicken. I think maybe he already picked it up. I'm not too sure, but... Something else they're going to get inside this town is the Jade Disc, which increases their accuracy slightly by about 2, maybe 3%. And even though that's minor, every little bit helps, especially when you got the time to burn anyway. Misses are extremely annoying in this game. Tonic Tatsu's dead. I killed him. Jin Tatsu won, same thing. Well, now we got Solar and Zheal just doing the traditional Evermore, wait for the events to end. You'll know when the timer runs out, there'll be a slight break in the Evermore music. And at that cue, they'll transition to the next screen. So now we got a nice little showcase from Colin then in the meantime. Colin's super thirsty, collecting all the water in the world. You need water and vinegar for Sting. 2 parts water to 1 part vinegar. Looks like he's heading back to town to do his own little standstill. Final collection. Well, we've still got a couple more minutes on the timer, so if you need to grab a quick drink of water or use the washroom, now's the time. I know I am. Okay, looks like Zheal entering the square scene at 28 even. Solar 27 behind. And Zheal being brought into the arena waiting room. He's going to pop into the secret chamber on the right here and grab a couple call beads, I'm sure. Oh no, okay, he don't need call beats. Now he wants to set up. Oh, he's not doing the frame setup. What is this guy doing? What is this guy doing? So ideally you want to center the screen so that when the door opens and you go through it, you don't have to wait as long for the screen to pull over. Very brief minor frame saves, but I'm surprised he's not doing it, considering he was the one who told me about it. This can be a very dangerous boss. If you kill him too fast, if you hit him on his final hit during a specific animation, you can cause some audio glitches that will soft lock the game. We do not want to see that. But a seasoned vet like Zheal isn't going to have any issues. Nice, Zheal getting the manip so that he comes up and doesn't go back down. It's pretty swag. Meanwhile, Colin almost 2.5 minutes behind, unfortunately. Sometimes that's just the way the ever cookie crumbles. Yeah, did you hear what I'm talking about? Lobotomy. You can see that chicken there pecking at Colin's head. All right, Solar getting the kill. No problems here. Yes, sneezing does cause some pretty serious soft locks. Ooh, 3 minutes. Come on, Colin. When's that market gonna end for you, bud? Meanwhile, Big Z gets his dog back and finally continue on. Now, what you're going to see here is he's going to leave the dog up at the top of the screen. He's going to probably attempt the reverse desert skip just the natural quick way. It doesn't work. He's going to switch to the dog and hold up. That, because of the way the desert's programmed, it essentially wraps the dog to the other side of the screen, and biggity bam, we threw. Now, earlier they were shopping. They picked up a bunch of these items, which were they're called wings, and what they do is they typically allow you to exit the dungeon. However, you can use them in places where you can't exit, and it'll say it didn't work. And what that ends up doing is the game bugs out, and now suddenly the enemies no longer treat you as if you're there, and they just sort of ignore you and they can't damage you. You can abuse this on a lot of bosses for just casual playing, even if you don't want to use like Atlas glitch or something like that for like cheese. You can just use wings and then you're invincible during boss fights. Zheal gonna leave the puppy there. He's gonna go set off this door and then send the puppy through. Same thing here. We can utilize the dog for some quick exits to certain maps, especially this particular map. He needs to come off of this bridge and not trigger a tile just at the top of the bridge that will pull the dog to cross and the bridge will retract. So by doing that, we're able to leave the dog at the entrance for quick escape after triggering these switches. These halls are just a series of switches going from rooms in each corner of the main hall area, and then eventually leading to the center room. And blink and you miss it. There was a boss there. It died very quickly. Yeah, he reset on Magmar. Alright, so now some more of that leashing is going to take the dog over that platform there. It's just a small 3 tile sort of puzzle that'll open and close these doors, alternating from one to the other depending on which buttons you press in which order. But we'll just skip all that and away we go. Wings on out. That's why we purchased a bunch of these wings items. They will allow for some quick exits in this dungeon. But mostly we're going to be using them for that other mechanic I talked about where you're not targeted by enemies. Now, a thing he did there, he alternated to the dog so that the boy crossed a switch while the dog was in control, and that way the boy did not trigger it. And that's going to allow him to leave the dog in this room for another quick escape. The old strat for this was the dog followed you and you just wingsed out, but what this does is saves you having to walk back up the stairs to the temple entrance again. A new time save is being found every day. Oh, Colin gets the manip too. Nice. So now we have our first spear of the game, finally. We need this spear for accessing the other side of this pit. Even if you had the spear from Act 1, it's not heavy enough to trigger this switch. Solar trying to set up the skip. This boss starts off invisible, but if you just run in there and start mangling him, you'll just take care of him before he's able to jump away. But typically he jumps around between the two fire pits, comes out, casts some spells on you, just being relatively annoying. No soft lock for Colin, right on. Now Zheal's going to move on to the second part of this section, the pyramid. There's a bunch of frame-perfect character transfers that you can do in there to have some minor time saves. All of this game, just very, very brief, but very important optimizations. Because once you've gotten them all, and they all stack up, that little brief bit here and there all of a sudden is like a minute. So they're going to set the dog up in a specific spot, right in front of the switch, so that when he gets to that point, he can move the dog forward and switch to the boy at the perfect time so that the boy just has control and doesn't have to wait for the screen to scroll back and forth between them. Solar wrapping up Megatar. This place is pretty mazy. One nice thing about these pyramids, when you're playing this game casually, they are full of loot. It's like Christmas going into here. Case in point, what Zheal just walked past. And you see them running across these invisible pits. The game intends you to fall into those pits. There's a big, very long cutscene that plays. And they give you a spell in order to see them. But, of course, if you just know where the pits are and the pathway to walk through them, you're totally fine. We'll see if we can get some more of that. He's also going to do some transfer there so that the boy can cross while the dog makes his movement. It's very, very, very tricky, swaggy stuff. These guys just blow my mind. So you're really happy that I'm not racing anyway? Well, maybe, I don't know. I would be doing none of these strats. It'd be like a casual play with me having Atlas glitch. So it's good that I'm here on Commentary Trust. Zheal's cleared up here. He's got his dog. He can get back to the top and go fight the boss. He's going to do some precast similar to the precast they did for the hardball spell before Magmar. This is just so they have fewer sets of casts to do on the boss. Yeah, SP9, they did a bunch of shenanigans with a bunch of status elements and ended up coming out of it completely godlike. They're also immune to all damage. There we saw a menu cancel from Zheal. When if you missed it, when Solar gets there, you'll see it. But the boss starts the fight off casting Confound on you, and if you just open the full menu and do a menu cancel on the boss, as opposed to your typical menu cancel on your own spells, you'll be able to just move up on them without having to wait for the big swirly laggy animation. But now, right now, you see them the way they're moving so perfectly, so fluently. They're confused right now. They're confounded, and the controls are backwards. He's probably gonna wait till it runs out. So now, nice aggressive skip with the boy. Beautiful. So what Zheal did there was a skip called Diamond Eyes skip. Typically, the game takes the two things that you just got from those pyramids, and you have to get it back later with some other dungeons and whatnot. But now, because they were able to just leash the boy over that trigger that starts that scene, they are able to just keep those items and use them later without having to go and do that extra dungeon. Typically, that is done with the dog, but when you have boy and he's on aggressive, you're able to leash him. It's a lot more difficult, but Zheal being the leader he is, no problem. Now we're going to move into another kind of gravy fight. This fight can be annoying casually, so you see Solar doing the typical way to do it. I can assume that Colin will probably be using the dog method as well. But before we get to this boss fight, this dog statue is going to blow up in fiery magma raining down on the people in the town. I mean, it had to go somewhere, right? And Alice just makes quick work of that boss. Typically, that boss works in cycles. You'll be able to hit him for a little bit, and then he'll be untargetable, and he'll just spam out some enemies that you gotta kill. You don't have to kill them, but he spams out a bunch of enemies, then you gotta wait for him to be retargetable again. This here is Tiny. Can you feel the irony in his name? He's going to pick up this mysterious pyramid core thing and just give it a little toss. Just a little toss. That'll play a story element later that we'll also be skipping, but there it is. Now, Horace here, he's going to give a bunch of call beads. He'll top up your call beads to 6, but if you already have 6 or more, there's a little bit of an Easter egg where he'll give you the Staff of Life, which increases your defense value. Just a nice little bonus if you still have some call beads. And now Zheal finally gets to make use of his crush spell. The next section of the game has a boss that is one of 2 bosses that cannot be properly hurt with physical. There's ways to do it with the spear, but we don't have spear throw. And you can hit him with the spear at 100%, but unfortunately we can't do damage at 100%, so that's also out of the question. So we need magic for this boss and another boss later on. In fact, the very boss that this category is named after, the Verminator himself. Which is another reason, like, having the Verminator skip saves more time in that you don't have to buy as many ingredients. But that's brief in what it actually saves. The ingredient thing is just a nice bonus. So he's gonna head on back. This is where you were supposed to go. The game intended you to fall through this pit when you first get here and land in this here camp, but now that we're at this point of the game, the camp is clear. There's supposed to be a river here, but it's empty. We're able to cross up the seabed and into this here cave while the boy falls and breaks his back and every other bone in his body. Colin's starting his boss fight. Should go pretty good. Zheal just going to make his way through this small little dark maze with these teleporters. It's not too bad, but it can be annoying. It's funny, the way through is very direct, but if you fall into these branches, the branches themselves are not direct. They get all mazy and squirrely with each other. Also, you notice the runners, of course, they set themselves up right in that doorway, but you can accidentally leave the room before getting the diamond eyes, and woo, Softlock City. Now, Zheal on this boss is going to position a dog in a specific way so the dog's not going to get tentacled, and the boy will be perfect target for Aquagoth. He's only able, though, in this fight, you'll notice he has to wait till the crush lands, but he's only doing 7 casts. If you do 8 casts and the boss decides to cast a spell at the same time, the game will soft lock and crash. Because the game, of course, did not intend you to do this many casts in a row. Now he's just going to layer some fire in there, get himself to the top of the screen. Boss will die, and he's in a perfect spot to move on to the next act. Meanwhile, Solar making his way through the cave. We'll see how his Aquagoth fight goes. Sometimes, if you're not quick enough, the boss will pull one of these little dudes with the spears. I don't know what you want to call them, but we'll pull one of those into the fight, and it will start to lag seriously, and that's not what you want to see. It's words. But now you can see, we'll see when Colin gets there too, that the time it takes for Crush to land is pretty significant compared to how fast Colin will be able to menu cancel. Unfortunately, it's not going to be enough that'll make a difference to help him catch up huge, but it'll be a nice difference to see. And Colin finally picking up, sorry, not Colin, Zheal picking up the ticket for the show. That's why he needed that amulet of annihilation, rather, back in the market that they purchased with the rice. Something I failed to mention during all that action was they purchased that with probably just a single grain of rice, a single bag of rice, because that guy who's selling them, he sells them for 30 bags each, but you can just keep saying no to him, and he'll eventually offer you 1 for 1 bag. But if you buy that, he'll no longer offer you anymore. Otherwise, you can just buy them for 30 bags, as many as you want. Once Zheal gets through this next section of oddities, a very important skip is going to come up. And if you've played this game before, it's probably one of your least favorite sections of the game, and we're going to be able to completely skip through that and not have to deal with that madness. 3 for 1 bag, that's correct. Yes, that's correct. Yes, he will. That is the ultimate offer. Eventually, he offers the 1 for 1, but then yes, he will offer the 3 for 1. Appreciate you keeping me on my toes as soon as. Not too much exciting about this. All these oddities are just, cheesy gimmicks. A horn on a goat, some guy inside of a box who's supposed to be bodiless, and your dog with a pig mask on. I think we should be able to get to this skip on Zheals before Colin gets to the boss. So we'll probably want to pay attention to Zheal for the moment. So if you want to come up with some cute names for these pigs, Truffle Trouble is leading the pack, but the other 2 pigs at the back don't have cute little names. Did you notice Truffle Trouble is no longer leading the pack? He ends up in the far back. We had a Lost Woods. Yeah, that actually might be your least favorite part of the game. This might not be even nearly as bad as that. But for me, I tell you, I didn't like this next section at all when I used to play this as a child. So now you watch carefully on Zheal's screen. He's going to enter this door, and he's just going to hold down or down left or down right or whatever. And he's going to run out of the room. And then he's going to just re-enter the room. So when you enter that door, a banquet scene is supposed to play out, and then it switches to your dog, who makes his way through a bunch of vents, and it's very long and mazy and dark and annoying. And then he gets through the vents, and then there's a big old cutscene with the banquet, and the dog messes everything up, and we just skipped all of that. It's pretty significant. Now on Zheal, or on Colin's side, we're going to finally see some of that sting action. Casts. Oh, he's waiting a little longer than he needs to. Yeah, so he's you can literally, as soon as you do your last cast, you can just pull up the dog's menu and cancel it all. This should be enough to wrap him up, I believe. No, just a little shy. He's gonna have to pop a couple more spells. Looks like he's holding on to his call beads for something. Meanwhile, Zheal took out the knight while I was mystified by this Aquagoth fight here. That's okay. Solarcell will show me this nice knight fight. Yeah, Zheal is in the lead right now. Solar is right behind him. Colin, unfortunately, is a good 3 minutes, almost getting close to 4 minutes behind now. But now Zheal is in the Dark Forest. Unfortunately, running this game, you have to learn the Dark Forest. There is a map guide for it, but I mean, you don't want to be using that forever, so you gotta learn the Dark Forest. And the reason that Solar is standing still right now, by skipping that banquet scene, the dog's technically no longer with us. So triggering this fight pulls the dog. We gotta wait for him to come over. Solar getting a great fight there. You want to try and manipulate that boss to die, so you're on that tile right there. So as soon as the door opens, you're right in. You don't have to wait for the animation of the boy to walk over. Just follow the Moglins. Those little guys up in the trees, you may notice. They're kind of dark on Zheal's screen, but they indicate that you're going the right way. I remember using graph paper to map this out with my dad. Some of that father-son time. Yeah, soft locking is the only way Colin's gonna catch up, unfortunately. These guys are very consistent with their runs. And Colin had some bad luck with the end of his Act 1 and the beginning of his Act 2, unfortunately. Zheal on the Doppler fight. He's got to take out a few versions of himself. These guys can be pretty evasive. Having that J disc helps a little bit. But good fight from Zheal. Again, just for frame saves, you want to end up as close to the platform as possible. That is correct, as Cecil from Final Fantasy IV is in this game. Unfortunately, we will not be seeing him. He is visited in the Hundo category, however. Big Z should be coming up out of this second half of the forest pretty soon and moving on to the next boss, the Timber Drake, or the Toothpick Dragon. I mean, if you look on Solar's screen, these are those guys. Those guys that are making the duplicates are the ones that are up in the trees. So you can see them a lot better as Solar moves through the forest. Zheal makes it to the Timber Drake. Oh, nice fight. Pulls him right down immediately. Sometimes the RNG of where the Drake moves can be kind of annoying, but came right directly to the right, so Zheal just took right advantage of that. And now he's going to make his way into the sewer section to the next castle. The gimmick between Act 3 is there's two castles. There was the original castle, and then there was a new castle that was built, and everyone sort of moved over to that castle. So we started off in that new castle, and now we're headed back to the old castle to find out what's what. Ideally, you're supposed to get that whole scene with the banquet and whatnot, and then you talk to the queen, and she tells you that there's an imposter at this castle, and she wants you to go over there and deal with the imposter, but I'm pretty sure you can put 2 and 2 together. Realize that she is in fact the actual imposter. Zheal heading through these little secret passages. There's a bunch of them in this little maze. It's actually kind of a big maze, but there's some good stuff you can get in that maze if you find those hidden passages casually. And Zheal got to do the jail wrap up. There's another reason why missing is annoying. They'll come out of there, you just want to do your one swing and move on, but then you miss, and then you gotta like backtrack, and then they start running all over the jail place, and you're chasing around, you're getting mad. We're coming up on the old Verminator himself. Final use of magic that we'll be seeing in this game. Well, actually that's not entirely true. There may be some call beat stuff later depending on what kind of strats these guys are using, but I'm pretty sure this will be it for Zheal. Now, aside from Alchemy, there's only one other way to damage this boss, and that's throwing the spear by having spear charges, but since our runners haven't taken the time to level up the spear, forced to use magic. So it's not going to take too much. A couple 8 casts and a few call beads, and he'll be done. Colin having a little bit of trouble with the knight. Zheal's menuing just on fire with those bead casts. Unbelievable. Nice. So now on Zheal's side, we get to meet Gomi, the most colorful character in the game. He's going to take us up to the Queen and give us the real scoop as to what's going on in this crazy world. Zheal using cutscenes to talk and chat and give explanations. Yeah, there's a couple soft locks that can happen in those jail scenes. One, if you, like as was mentioned, if you do open them in the wrong order, sometimes you won't be able to exit the jail. And if you let the banquet scene play while the dog is dead, there is a way to recover it, but typically you're going to get stuck in this little jail cell yourself. Solar taking out his Verminator, no problem. Zheal talking to Highgarden. She also give you a bunch of call beads, but at this point it's not necessary. We'll see if Zheal goes for the actual bazooka shot strat here. I'm going to shoot the first monk to the left. Boom, very nice. Put you right in front of that Lizzo. Perfect fight from Zheal, no misses. That's what we want to see. It's beautiful. Not that that fight is scary in any sort of way. All those enemies are from earlier acts and really weak. But still, it's swaggy and fun. Basically, it's a way to test your bazooka. Zheal rolling a pretty heavy lead. You know, this guy's going to let us know a little bit more about the story and give us access to an axe that's going to allow us to progress to the next boss and get close to the end of this act. Now, even though they're using a telescope, they're able to pick up the conversation that's happening here. Some people believe the telescope's got a super mic. Some people think it's magic. Maybe the boy is able to read lips. Nobody really knows. We'll see how Solar's fight goes. Will he have any misses, or will it be nice and clean? Oh, bazooka shot miss. Oh, you wrapped it up all right, but man, those misses can be just frustrating. Case in point, if you just saw Colin on the Timber Drake, he just missed the first 4 shots. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Those 4 shots should have been enough to kill the Drake, and he missed them all. This game can be mean. This game also has cutscene RNG. Sometimes the NPCs will start moving in funny ways during the cutscenes. Smelloscope, yes, by sense of smell. So Zheal will just have to make his way back through these sewers, but now he has the capability to take out these rocks and gain access to another section of this map. Well, essentially takes him back to these barricades. This is where we're going to possibly see one more use of Call Bead magic, depending on what strat Zheal is going for. I want to believe he's not going to do it, but we'll see what happens. Try to keep your dog alive in this place. It's very nice to have the dog. Look at this movement. Look at this movement. Dog taking no hits. Solar's following right behind. We'll do some time stamping at the end of this boss, and we'll see exactly how far each person is. Calling on to the big bad Verminator himself. Oh, yeah, so no, he's going just pure strats. So now this boss has a chance of grabbing you and dropping you to the path below. The old strat was to use Hypnotize, Call Bead magic from the Queen Evergarden there, but Queen Blue Garden rather. But it's not exactly necessary, as you saw, but it does help with reducing the chances of getting grabbed. So it basically just stuns the boss, keeps him stuck in place. So as long as you don't get too close to him, he won't grab you. You can just knock him away until he's far enough that you can finish him off on the edge of the platform. We'll see a slightly different fight from Colin, as he has Sting, or he's using Crush. He's doing a little combination. Oh, he's doing some Sting Crush combo. Nice. Nice. Then you cancel that bad boy. Wrap up. What's he going to do? Yeah, he's going to finish up with some Call Beads. And then that'll allow him to, if he so chose. Yeah, I want a menu cancel there. Not sure what he's keeping all his Call Beads for, but he's holding on to them for something. Meanwhile, Zheal getting taken to see the Fake Queen for the first time, who's going to act as if we've never been here, even though we have been here and we needed to come back here and then do this whole scene again and then yada, 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 but shortcuts. Yeah, unfortunately, there's no real chance of Colin catching up. I hate to say it. I don't want to sound like a jerk, but it's just the facts. I missed my stamping too, so we're going to have to stamp after Mungala and find out where we are at. And not on a game that's this optimized. Now Zheal jumping into this fight. This fight is some weird palette glitching and stuff can happen if you leave this fight for too long, and I'm not too sure exactly what causes it, but some of those puppets will change color. Here we got 104.26 on the white screen. Some of those puppets will change color and the game will just sort of freeze for a while. The puppets will still move, but you can't move and the bosses don't move, and then all of a sudden it just releases itself after a few minutes. Very strange. First time it happened to me was just recently, actually. No, I like that better. 10,000 out 105 on the dot. We'll use that. So we're just going to follow the king. So this is a instance of that cutscene RNG. We got good RNG for Zheal. Sometimes the dog would just walk around the outside of the room instead of just directly following you. Oh, 104.26. Nice to do it up there. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you very much. Zheal going to make his way back out of the ruined castle, head back to see Gomi, and he's very close to wrapping up. Not much to the Mongolo fight. It's fairly free. For Solar. Yeah, all things considered, a minute and a half behind is not too bad. Zheal picking up the pots and pan ship, the Wind Walker. Once you get access to the ship, there is a funky little glitch that you can do where you can access an infinite number of call beads. Obviously, we're not really going to be doing that, but just for little lore purposes and FYIs. If you're interested in how that works for some casual fun, you're welcome to Google it. 99 call beads. Right, so now Zheal's going to fly back here. This is where having those diamond eyes comes in handy, because this is at the point you would have to go back and retrieve them from the other dungeon. But since we already have them, we can just go on and get the next item on the list. For Tinker requires 3 items to help get his rocket going. And we can use his rocket. Now you see he used the wings there. This is just so that these plants don't eat the dogs. They can grab your characters and chew them up for a little bit. We don't want that, and the dog gets left behind, and we got to wait for him to catch up after hitting this gust of air. Which is the whole reason they bought some extra wings. And we'll see how Colin goes about this fight. Will he use the... He's leaving the dog behind. No, he's right there. We'll see if he uses the hypnotize or not. Meanwhile, Zheal grabbing the gauge. Oh no, he's not going for hypno strats. Oh, got snatched. Unfortunate. Sometimes the game will also crash, soft lock, whatever you want to call it. However you want to define it. After the dragon tosses you down. Not having a good fight here, my man. So now, The game requires you to get the gauge, as Zheal picked up there, but it also requires you to get the wheel. And the wheel comes from a refight with the very first boss, the big bug in that maze. But the game is also programmed in a way so that, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way it works is, because we never went to the volcano the first time, which is part of the story that you needed to do in Act 1, we were able to just skip that by going through the rocks. The game treats it like we haven't been there, and you're able to return there and get the pot a second time. And instead of going to get the wheel, we can just give him 2 gauges. And everything will be fine. It was only 1 hit away from Colin, but just giving him the ride of his life, unfortunately. But now we see Solar picking up his first gauge while Zheal making his return for the second gauge. We use the second wings now, and they're going to save 1 more wings for the final boss. Or rather, I believe so anyway. I personally don't like using wings on the final boss because I want the enemies to come to me, because sometimes they'll run away from your characters and you got to chase them down if you don't get proper manips. So there are some setups that you want for the final boss, but things can go squirrely and you got to adapt. But now, just like magic, that gauge is back. 2 for the price of 1. So it takes a lot more time to go back through the bug maze to go fight that boss. And the boss itself, without using magic, takes a while because she just knocks you back out every time you hit her. And you gotta hit her like 6 or 7 times. So this is a much better alternative. For whatever reason, if they had failed the Diamond Eye skip, they would be able to use the wheel in place of the Diamond Eyes. But again, it would require them going to fight that boss. But it is a backup so that you don't have to reset your run if it were, say, a marathon. And look, we're in a marathon, so yeah, never know. So now Zheal's going to go crash into the water. Boom. And this is called landing skip. You notice that there's no animation of the ship coming down anymore, but the ship is also missing. So if you accidentally do landing skip or land in a weird place that also gives you that effect, and you lose your ship, you cannot complete the game. The ship will never come back. It's just gone. Fairly clean fight from Colin for Mongala. And Zheal's going to count down and head on up to the final area, which unfortunately the developers sort of ran out of time, and this final area really had to be shortcutted, so it just ended up being a bunch of rooms that all connect through this series of tunnels and whatnot, and you gotta defeat some enemies in these little guardian spheres that open the paths, and it's just really annoying. But luckily we've got more skips. The game is just chock full of them. You get the Toaster Dog too. Poor Toaster Dog doesn't get enough time in the light. And the great thing about Toaster Dog is it has infinite running, so you can just hold the button forever. Zheal intentionally letting the boy catch up. Yeah, you don't want to enter that beam of light while the boy is far away, because then the boy will walk slowly towards it. But now we're going to see our event transfer glitch like we've seen throughout other places in the game. And Zheal's going to use it to clip through the gate right into the final boss room without having to actually activate it the proper way. And then Zheal start his final boss rush. But typically, these fans are in the way. You need to destroy them with the bazooka or something else like that. But if you just run the dog up, because the dog can get past them. Well, I guess the dog can kill them as well, but we want the boy up there because obviously the boy's doing crazy damage. And in order to get him up there, you just keep running up into the corner, and then the boy's AI will eventually pull itself past the wind barrier. And then you can just switch back to the boy and away you go. Zheal is going to try and get these set up so that he groups both of these raptors, but as I was saying, sometimes it doesn't go so well, especially if you miss. And by miss, I mean like the game miss on the roll, not his character actually not hit the target. And this one he wants to knock down, group up with... Oh, see, there's those misses, man. Normally this goes really well. They group up nice and tight. You know, Solar getting to the end here. Colin doing his final wrap-up. It was pretty close. It was pretty close for Zheal and Solar. So there's two different methods you can do. You see Zheal used the buffer method, but Solar used a sort of rapid mash where you need to just switch between the characters and activate the door in very tight framing or frame timing. But he was able to pull it off like a pro. Now we got the Rimsalas. They can be pretty annoying as they can get away from you really easy and they move very quickly. But you want to try and group them up. Great Rimsalas from Zheal. Oh, that one got away. So close to perfect Rimsalas. We'll see Solar set up his Raptors. Oh, he's got the good grouping. Oh, that one got knocked to the right. Nice. No problem. No problem. Zheal doing the Doppler fight, and then he's got to fight the demon dog, Doppler Toaster. He's going to try and lock the dog into this box. This dog runs away, moves very quickly, so he intentionally puts his dog in the middle of the door and knocks the evil toaster down so that it can't really escape because he's just constantly got him mashed in with the spear. And if we can just wrap up this Death Spider. And probably one of the most annoying thing that's ever happened to me playing this game. I killed that Death Spider right before this Magmar dude comes out, the Metal Magmar, and I rolled over my attack, so I was no longer able to do damage. This is before I realized you could equip a weaker weapon, but I was no longer to do damage as far as I understood, and my run ended, and it was good. But now we get the final boss. Time is coming up for Zheal very quickly, as soon as the screen flashes white. Boom! GG for Zheal. 116.55, very respectable. Let's see what we end up with for Mr. Solar. Let's get some okay Rimsalas. Oh, that one got away. Yeah, not bad. Not bad for some of this. I think this is Colin's final drop. He should be ready to head to Onitopia as well. Solar not doing the trap for the dog, so there is a chance the dog can escape to the left. Oh, dog with the misses. That crazy evil toaster was dodging like a madman. Oh no, looks like Colin's got one more. You see Zheal, sneaky guy. So he did a glitch where he gains control of his character during the final cut, like during the ending, basically. And now you see him running around here, killing stuff, but he's not really supposed to have control of the boy right now. Solar on his Magmar fight, about to wrap up. Look at this gentleman showboating for the crowd. And GG for Solar. Time of 118.33. Still decent. Sub 120 is nice. This is not an easy game. Getting good runs in this game requires a lot of early resets. If you've ever really watched any of these runners do their regular runs, it is reset heavy in the first bit. But once you get that golden run going after Atlas, then it's just smooth sailing. All right, sweet. Colin heading back to Omnitopia, heading back to the castle so we can head to Omnitopia for his final wrap up. See if he's got anything fancy schmancy in store. We'll see how his groupings go. Now, you saw a lot of crazy stuff here today, but if you've never played this game casually, it is definitely a very fun casual play. Even you just got to kind of save often just in case, you know, shenanigans happen. But otherwise, there's a lot of cool stuff and cool alchemies to experiment with and have fun with. The dog itself, the weapon charges, all that goodness. Especially when you get the dog to the toaster form and you're actually doing all of the Omnitopia section, the dog just owns. The funny thing about this final fight too is your characters can get stuck up into the top like left corner of the arena and no longer be able to finish the fight. Had this happen to me, and unfortunately our dog is just so weak. If your dog is alive, you may be able to pull it off after a while, especially if you have wings, but if the dog is dead and you have no revival item, you're just stuck up in the corner and you can't do anything if you ain't got no bazooka, or if you ain't don't have like charge spear or something like that, which of course we won't have any of that in the speed run. So final boss time. The way this is supposed to work, if you're not using bazooka or the dog or anything like that, is these bombs that get spit out on arena, you can use them and physically knock them up towards those fan blades, and when they explode they'll do 999 damage, which is basically the fastest way to do it if you don't have the dog's charge level up. Oh, got a miss. Messed up the grouping. Oh, he's recovering. He's recovering. Nice, nice, nice. Yeah, the music is absolutely beautiful. It really sets the tone in a lot of places. Yeah. Oh, we got a good group in here. Yeah, no, miss. Yeah, yeah. Oh, we're good. Nice, nice. Raptor is going really well for Colin so far. There's those misses. Gotta love them misses. And you notice he's able to turn his back to the enemy and swipe upwards, and the hitbox still hits the enemy. And because of the way that damage knockback works, he's able to literally pull the enemy to his back and keep him on him without the knockback, which is very cool tech. One of the things I really like about this, especially when it comes to this final boss rush in the grouping. And this Verminator decided to not cooperate, but still he caught it real good. And you see he's setting up the dog for Demon Toaster as well. Alright, had them all locked up. Be real easy. Take care of this here death spider. And the metal magmar. So when metal magmar comes out, the computer screen starts changing and the tiles begin to, well, they begin to change. And that's the point where you suddenly gain access to the top left corner and you can get stuck while they're transforming. Alright. Nice bounce. The reason they're fighting this guy on the left wall, it reduces the amount of lag during the fight by keeping the explosions close to the side of the screen so you're not seeing the full effects of them. And we should have time for Colin right away. Boom! Time! GG, boys! Very good, very good. I'm glad we were able to showcase this race, and it actually went pretty well. I mean, given Evermore's volatility, one of these players may not have even made it to the end, but they all did, so right on. You guys are the best. Legends among legends. All right, we're going to just quickly wrap this up and move on to Brandish, just to keep things chugging along on schedule. So thanks a lot. I've been Jintatsu on commentary, and I just want to thank my boys Solarcell007, colinbolts, and Zheal. Give them all a big follow. They're the deadliest of the deadlies, and we'll catch you guys back here next time.